The Higher Election Committee receives the results of 5 constituencies in Syria. Al-Jafari affirms that Annan's mission is on the right track and calls on Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Turkey to stop their support of terrorists in Syria. Kofi Annan calls for the halt of violence and the start of a credible political process in the interest of the Syrian people. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our news for today. Vote counting has been concluded at Damascus constituency. Its results were submitted to the Higher Election Committee, which declared it has so far received the results of the elections of the People's Assembly members for the first legislative term of 2012 from 5 constituencies in the governorates. It added it will declare the date and place of the announcement of the final results when it receives such data from all constituencies and at least one day before the time and place to be fixed, and that news media will be invited to attend the final results announcement. Meanwhile, the judicial subcommittees across the governorates continue vote counting in the various poll stations. Head of the Higher Election Committee, Councillor Khalaf Al-Azawi, has affirmed that no results of elections have been announced and no kind of leakage has been made by the committee. He added that the final results will be announced when they are submitted to the committee by all election constituencies and after the judicial subcommittee study all objections presented and reach a decision concerning them. Regarding re-election at Zahiriya and Amarat election centers belonging to Al-Hasaka constituency, Al-Azawi pointed out that as a result of the objections presented to the judicial subcommittee in Al-Hasaka, the 2 centers were abrogated and re-election was held there today, as was the case when election was repeated in 2 centers in Damascus constituency. Syria's permanent representative to the UN, Dr. Bashar Al-Jafari, has said the UN monitor's work in Syria is on the right track, and Syria is committed to cooperation for the sake of rendering Annan's mission successful. However, the type of crimes perpetrated by the armed terrorist groups has become worse. At a press conference he held at the UN headquarters, Al-Jafari said the Syrian government is implementing its pledges under the plan of the UN Special Envoy to Syria, Kofi Annan, but those sides which support terrorists with money and arms from Saudi Arabia, Qatar and Turkey are not adding that these countries should stop their support to the armed terrorist groups. Al-Jafari said confessions of 26 Arab people who were arrested in Syria revealed that they came from Libya, Tunisia and other countries through Turkey and Lebanon to launch terrorist attacks in Syria. He said the Syrian security forces killed 15 members of those Takfiri and Salafi groups, pointing out that therefore we are talking about facts that cannot be denied regarding the involvement of foreign fighters in the event in Syria, which is a very serious issue. Al-Jafari added that the Turkish government should shoulder its responsibility in stopping the infiltration of terrorists from Turkey into Syria. He said Western countries adopt a policy of double standards concerning the subject of combating terrorism, and such attitude undermines the international efforts to fight terrorism. On his part, the UN envoy to Syria, Mr. Kofi Annan, said violence must stop and a credible political process should start in the interest of the Syrian people. At a press conference he held in Geneva yesterday, Annan said, "We are not addressing our messages to the Syrian government alone, but also to the armed groups who must lay down their arms." Annan added that all sides must abide by the UN plan, guarantee the implementation of its 6 points, and participate in dialogue in a bid to overcome the crisis. Annan pointed out that the basic priority is to hold violence, adding that he is not talking about the Syrian government only, but also about the governments that influence the opposition. He announced his intention to visit Damascus in the upcoming few days. Russia's permanent representative to the UN, Vitaly Churkin, said that the situation in Syria is moving in a positive direction. In a statement made after the UN Security Council's meeting, Churkin underlined that things are moving in a positive direction, pointing out that there are some obstacles that can be overcome. He stressed that more international observers are being deployed already. Chinese Foreign Minister Yang Jiechi said that China's attitude towards Syria is firm and clear, which is based on supporting any solution that can protect the interests of the Syrian people agreed upon by all sides. Yang pointed out that his country will continue to play a positive and constructive role in solving the Syrian crisis in a peaceful, fair, and appropriate manner, adding that the efforts of UN envoy Kofi Annan have offered a practical solution to the current crisis. He called on all Syrian sides to respect their commitment and stop violence in order to pave the way for a comprehensive political dialogue. A German plane arrived in Damascus International Airport carrying on board 14 Nissan patrol cars and communication equipment, in addition to office equipment to be used by UN observers in Syria. The plane was presented by the government of Germany to transport these cars and equipment from the UN Center for Logistics in Brindisi in Italy to Damascus. An information delegation visited Idlib to be briefed on the reality of the situation in the governorate and convey it in an objective, accurate, and honest way to the world public opinion. The governor of Idlib, Yasser al-Shufi, presented a detailed survey of the situation in the governorate and the measures taken to facilitate the work of the observers' mission. He referred to many violations committed by the armed terrorist groups, particularly along the Syrian-Turkish borders. The governor said the Turkish government supports and facilitates the infiltration of such groups into Syria to commit terrorist acts and assault borders guards and law enforcement troops. Minister of Health Dr. Wael Halqi opened today Al-Qtaifa Hospital at a cost of 440 million Syrian pounds with a capacity of 60 beds. It will provide 500 job opportunities to doctors, nurses, and technicians. The minister pointed out that more than 160,000 citizens will benefit from the services of this hospital from Al-Qtaifa region and neighboring areas in Damascus suburbs. He added that the 11th five-year plan of the ministry includes the establishment of 2 other hospitals this year in Al-Nashabiyah and Al-Mleha in Damascus countryside, in addition to 6 other hospitals next year in Al-Kiswa, Qatana, and Rinkus. With this, we conclude our news for today. For more news about Syria and the region, you can always visit our website in English, Syria Online.